In the heart of Texas, where the sun blazes mercilessly over endless prairies and the sound of cattle echoes across dusty ranches, lived a 12-year-old girl named Emma Rodriguez. Born with spina bifida, a condition that left her legs paralyzed. From the waist down, Emma had spent her entire life in a wheelchair. But what she lacked in mobility, she more than made up for in spirit, determination, and an almost supernatural connection with animals. The Rodriguez Ranch had been in the family for 4 generations. Emma's grandfather, Miguel Rodriguez, had built it from scratch, starting with just 20 acres and a dream. Today, it sprawled across 2,000 acres of prime Texas land, home to some of the finest cattle in the state. Emma's father, David Rodriguez, had inherited not only the land, but also a deep, intuitive understanding of cattle behavior. Emma's story was one of resilience from the very beginning. Born prematurely with a spinal cord that hadn't fully developed, doctors told her parents she might never sit up on her own, let alone live a life of quality or independence. But Emma had other plans. By the age of 2, she was maneuvering her tiny wheelchair with the finesse of a race car driver. By 5, she was helping her father feed cattle, insisting on doing everything herself. That girl has more determination in her little finger than most grown men have in their whole body, David often told visitors. And it was true. Emma tackled every challenge with fierce independence, the kind that inspired everyone who met her and occasionally worried them. 2. The ranch was more than a home for Emma. It was her playground, her classroom, her sanctuary. While other children were glued to video games or cartoons, Emma was studying cattle behavior, learning about breeding lines, and developing a nearly mystical ability to calm even the most agitated animals. Cowboys who'd worked with cattle. Their whole lives watched in awe as she rolled up to a spooked steer and, using just her voice and patience, soothed it like no one else could. But Emma's biggest dream was the most dangerous of all. Ever since she could remember, she had wanted to work directly with the bulls specifically. The powerful breeding bulls that were the pride of the Rodriguez Ranch. These were animals that even the toughest ranch hands treated with caution. Emma, Mia, her father would say gently whenever she brought it up, those bulls are dangerous. It's even for men twice my size. I can't let anything happen to you. But Emma was undeterred. She devoured books on bull behavior, watched endless documentaries, and spent hours observing the bulls from a safe distance. She noticed things others missed, like how the angle of a bull's ears could reveal its mood, or how to tell the difference between territorial aggression and actual anger. The ranch's prized bull was a massive black Angus named Thunder. Standing 6 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing over 2,000 pounds, Thunder was both majestic and terrifying. His coal-black coat shimmered in the sun, and every muscle in his body looked like it was carved from granite. Thunder had never been handled successfully by anyone except David, and even he needed multiple ranch hands to help, just in case Thunder came to the ranch 3 years ago after being rescued from a rodeo company that had mistreated him. He was angry, unpredictable, and dangerous. Most ranchers would have given up on him, but David saw something worth saving. And Emma, who had seen Thunder's eyes, insisted they bring him home. He's not mean, Papa, she had said quietly from her wheelchair, watching the huge bull from outside his pen. He's scared, he's hurt. Look at his eyes, there's intelligence there, and sadness. Against every expert's advice, David brought Thunder home. It took months, but slowly Thunder began to trust David enough for basic care. Still, no one else was allowed near him, not alone. No exceptions. Emma, however, never stopped watching Thunder. She learned everything about his routine when he was calmest, how he reacted to different voices, what made him pace restlessly. She even discovered that he had a fondness for classical music. She'd play soft pieces from her phone near his pen, and he'd relax almost immediately. One day, she whispered one morning as Thunder grazed peacefully, I'm going to show everyone that I can work with him too. What Emma didn't realize was that Thunder had been watching her just as closely. He noticed the small human who came in a rolling chair, who didn't flinch, who didn't yell, who never made sudden movements. She was different from the others. She radiated calm. She radiated love, and so something unseen was building, a connection neither human nor animal could explain. Something was coming that would shock the entire Rodriguez ranch. Do animals know when someone truly loves them, no matter their limitations? Can they sense sincerity through the chaos of human noise? Share your thoughts in the comments. Emma's fascination with thunder deepened. Her parents thought it was a harmless obsession, but for Emma, it was more than that. She felt drawn to him. She even started a detailed journal, tracking everything from Thunder's eating habits to his reactions to rainstorms and wind shifts. Day 847, she wrote one evening, Thunder spent most of the afternoon under the oak tree again. He seems to like the shade when it's hot. I noticed he always faces east when he rests toward the sunrise. I think he likes watching the horizon. Emma's meticulous notes caught the attention of Carlos Mendez, the ranch's head foreman. With over 30 years of experience, Carlos was no stranger to bulls. He had initially dismissed Emma's interest in Thunder as childish fantasy. But after months of watching her, he started to realize this girl knew something the rest of them didn't. Senorita Emma, he said one morning as she read near Thunder's enclosure, "You've been watching that bull for 3 years. What do you see that we don't?" Emma looked up, her eyes shining. "He's not naturally aggressive, Carlos. He's protective. There's a difference. Aggression is random. Protection comes with warnings. Thunder always warns before he gets upset." Carlos raised an eyebrow. "What kind of warnings?" "His ears go back first, then he lowers his head, and he always paws the ground twice before charging. But if you step back and look away, he calms down. He's not trying to hurt us, he's trying to talk." Later that day, Carlos tested her theory. During feeding time, Thunder grew agitated. Carlos watched, ears back, head down. Too deliberate. Pulse strikes. Carlos stepped back, turned away. Thunder relaxed. "Dios mío," he muttered. "She's right." Word spread quickly. Cowboys and visiting ranchers began asking Emma for advice. They didn't mock her or treat her like a child. Anymore, they listened. But her parents were still firm. She could observe, but she could never go inside. That rule only made Emma more determined. She began researching animal communication traditional training, new studies, anything that could help her understand Thunder. She learned that the best handlers shared key traits, patience, consistency, and the ability to stay calm no matter what. "I can do that," Emma whispered during breathing exercises. "I will do that." And then one July afternoon, fate offered its moment. The sun was brutal. Most of the hands had gone into town. Her father was in the barn treating a sick horse. Her mother was prepping dinner. Emma sat reading in her favorite shady spot when she noticed Thunder pacing, snorting, tossing his head. His water trough had been knocked over. The heat was rising fast, and Thunder was showing signs of distress, his breathing shallow, his muscles twitching. No one else was around. Emma knew she didn't have time to wait. She rolled to the gate of Thunder's pen, closed her eyes, and steadied her breathing. She focused, projecting calm energy like she'd practiced countless times. When she opened her eyes, Thunder was staring straight at her, but he wasn't angry. He was waiting. "Easy, Thunder," Emma whispered as she reached for the gate. "I'm just here to help." She opened it slowly, carefully, never once looking away. Thunder stood perfectly still, and then he took a step forward. Still. His intelligent dark eyes stayed locked on the small human who had entered his domain for the first time. There was no fear in her scent, no tension in her voice, only calm determination and unmistakable care. Emma rolled into the enclosure, her heart pounding like a drum, but her hands steady on the wheels of her chair. Thunder stepped forward once, then paused, tilting his great head as if trying to understand why this tiny creature wasn't afraid. "I know you're hot and thirsty," Emma said softly, her voice low and even. "Let me help you." She wheeled herself over to the tipped water trough, and with every ounce of strength in her upper body, she righted it, positioning it beneath the automatic water spout. The cool water began to flow. Thunder approached, each step soundless on the hardened dirt. As he lowered his massive head to drink, Emma reached out hesitantly at first and gently touched his neck. The bull froze for an instant, then resumed Drinking, unbothered by her hand, it was in that moment that Carlos returned from the barn. What he saw nearly stopped his heart. Have you ever felt a connection with an animal that others couldn't understand? Do you believe animals can sense our true intentions? Share your experience in the comments. If this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon to follow Emma's journey and discover how her bond with Thunder would go on to amaze the world. Comment below. What do you think Carlos will do now that he's seen Emma inside the pen with Thunder? Dios mío, Emma? Carlos's voice cracked as he whispered in stunned disbelief. There she was, calmly petting the neck of the most dangerous bull on the ranch. His first instinct was to yell, to run into the enclosure, to drag her out. Years of working with cattle made him stop. He knew one thing: sudden movements and loud noises could trigger an attack, especially from a bull as unpredictable as Thunder. Instead, Carlos moved slowly, his hand trembling as he reached for his radio. "Mr. Rodriguez," he said into the receiver, voice barely above a breath, "you need to come to Thunder's pen immediately and bring the tranquilizer gun." Inside the enclosure, Emma was lost in the moment. Thunder had finished drinking and stood quietly beside her chair, lowering his huge head until it was level with her own. She kept stroking his neck, awestruck by the feel of his coat and the warmth of his massive body. "You're beautiful," she whispered. "I wish everyone could see what I see." "You're not a monster, you're misunderstood." Thunder let out a deep rumble. To most, it would have sounded terrifying. But Emma recognized it as a sound of comfort. She'd heard that same rumble from mother cows nursing their calves. David arrived within minutes, silent and tense. When he saw his daughter inside the pen, his face turned pale. His gut screamed at him to rush in, to grab her, but his years of experience reminded him what panic could cost. He positioned himself at the gate, tranquilizer gun ready, and called out in the calmest voice he could manage, "Emma, sweetheart, I need you to come slowly to the gate." She turned and saw her father's terrified face. She understood immediately. But when she glanced back at Thunder, she didn't feel fear. She felt confidence. "Papa, he's not upset," she said gently. "Look at his body. His ears are forward, he's not pawing the ground, and his breathing is calm. He's not going to hurt me." David took a long, measured look at Thunder. To his astonishment, Emma was right. The bull wasn't showing any signs of aggression. In fact, he looked calmer than David had ever seen. "That may be true, Mia," David said slowly, "but I need you to come out now, please." Emma nodded and began rolling herself toward the gate. To everyone's shock, Thunder walked beside her, his massive frame pacing gently alongside her wheelchair. He wasn't guarding her. He was walking with her as if they were partners. Carlos held his breath, eyes wide. When Emma reached the gate, Thunder stopped. He didn't try to follow. He just stood at the fence, watching her with what could only be described as affection. David swept his daughter into a tight hug, his relief pouring out. "Emma, what were you thinking? You could have been killed." "But I wasn't," she said quietly. "Thunder would never hurt me. We understand each other." In the days that followed, Emma and Thunder's encounter became the talk of the ranch. Then it spread to neighboring towns and beyond. People came from miles away to see if the stories were true. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a veterinary behaviorist from Texas A&M University, heard about the incident and requested permission to study Thunder's interactions with Emma. What she saw challenged everything she thought she knew about animal behavior. In 30 years of studying cattle, she told David, "I've never seen anything like this. They communicate on a level that transcends traditional understanding." Emma's parents faced a difficult decision: forbid her from ever entering Thunder's enclosure again, or find a way to nurture this extraordinary connection in a safe, controlled way. After much prayer, discussion, and consulting with experts, they chose the latter. A custom-built enclosure was designed. It had emergency exits, barriers, and motion-triggered alerts. Emma wore a sensor that notified ranch hands if anything went wrong, and she was only allowed to work with Thunder under constant supervision by 2 experienced handlers. But what came next was even more astonishing. As news of Emma's gift spread, ranchers began to call. "I've got a bull no one can get near," one rancher said. "If your daughter can work with thunder, maybe she can help my Diablo." Emma didn't hesitate. "I'll try, Papa. If I can help even one more animal find peace, it's worth it." David looked at his daughter, and the truth hit him. Trying to suppress her calling would be like trying to dam the sea. Emma had found her purpose, and despite his fears, he knew he had to let her grow into it. Do you believe some people are born with gifts others don't understand? Have you witnessed someone with a deep, unexplainable connection to animals? Share your story in the comments. News of Emma's ability swept across the state and then the nation. Social media lit up with video clips, photos, and testimonies. Veterinarians, behaviorists, and ranchers all came to witness this young girl, who could tame the untamable. But with fame came doubt. Many seasoned cattlemen scoffed at the idea. A 12-year-old girl in a wheelchair succeeding where professionals had failed? Impossible. The criticism stung, but it fueled Emma's resolve. Then came the ultimate test. Marcus Brennan, a wealthy Montana rancher, contacted David with a challenge. He owned a Brahma bull named Goliath, widely regarded as the most dangerous bull in North America. Standing nearly 7 feet tall and weighing over 2,500 pounds, Goliath had injured 6 handlers. After his last attack, which left a cowboy with 3 broken ribs and a punctured lung, he was scheduled to be put down. "I'll give you $50,000, Brennan said on a video call, "if that little girl can get within 10 feet of Goliath without getting hurt. But I'm telling you, it's impossible. That bull is pure evil." Emma listened quietly from beside her father's desk. Her heart ached for the bull. No animal is evil, she thought, only hurt. "I'll do it," she said softly. David looked at her, shocked. "Absolutely not. Thunder is one thing, but this bull has seriously hurt people. I won't risk your life." But Emma had already made up her mind. Over the following weeks, she researched everything she could about Goliath. She learned he'd been taken from his mother too young, abused by handlers, and never allowed to form a bond with any human. "He's not evil," she told her father one night. "He's traumatized. Every interaction he's ever had with people has caused him pain or fear." Dr. Mitchell, now a trusted consultant on Emma's work, agreed to evaluate Goliath's case. After reviewing footage and reports, she gave her opinion. "Extremely dangerous, yes. But his aggression is learned, not natural. If anyone can reach him, it's Emma, but we must take every possible precaution." Weeks of planning followed. A custom-built arena was constructed with multiple safety layers, emergency exits, and a team of veterinarians on standby. On a gray September morning, Goliath arrived at the Rodriguez Ranch in a trailer that looked more like a mobile fortress. Everyone kept their distance. Even the most seasoned hands dared not get too close because Goliath's reputation wasn't just legend, it was lethal. Goliath was led into a reinforced holding pen, his movements powerful and wary. The moment Emma saw him, her breath caught in her throat. He was even larger than she had imagined, his thick, gray hide marred with scars that told stories of hardship and mishandling. His eyes, fierce and wide, held a wildness born not just of fear, but of betrayal. Yet beneath the surface of this intimidating creature, Emma saw something else, something others had overlooked. She saw pain. She saw loneliness. "He's magnificent," she whispered. "He's dangerous." Carlos replied, standing firmly beside her wheelchair, one hand on the radio, ready to call for help at the slightest sign of trouble. For 3 days, Emma didn't try to touch Goliath or even approach too closely. She simply sat outside his pen, reading books and speaking in quiet tones. Sometimes she just hummed softly, a gentle melody floating into the pen. She didn't try to make eye contact or impose her presence. She allowed him to observe her, to grow used to her calm energy, and Goliath did observe. His eyes followed her with confusion. This human was unlike any other. She didn't yell or carry prods. She didn't rush at him. She made no demands. She just existed, quiet, still, unafraid. On the 4th day, something shifted. The bull slowly began to approach the fence where she sat. His movements were tense, prepared to bolt at any hint of danger. Emma didn't look up from her book. "You're curious about me, aren't you?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's okay. Take all the time you need." By the end of the first week, Goliath was lying in the shade near the fence for hours at a time, his breathing more relaxed. Emma would read aloud, her voice soothing, her presence steady. The change was subtle, but unmistakable. "I've never seen anything like it," Dr. Mitchell reported to the small team of behaviorists watching the experiment unfold. "His cortisol levels are dropping. His posture is less defensive. He's showing signs of trust." But everyone knew this was only the beginning. Earning Goliath's trust from outside the pen was one thing. The real test would come when Emma entered his space, just as she had done with Thunderdot. "Do you believe that true patience and compassion can heal even the most wounded hearts? Have you ever helped someone or an animal overcome fear through gentle persistence? Share your story." In the comments. The day of the test arrived with cautious fanfare. News crews from 3 networks had set up outside the perimeter, while leading veterinary experts from across the country came to observe what some believed would be a miracle and others feared could be a disaster. Emma had only one request, that the arena be cleared of non-essential personnel. Only her father, Carlos, Dr. Mitchell, and 2 emergency handlers would remain inside. Everyone else, including the media, watched from a distance behind protective barriers. David knelt beside his daughter outside the pen. "Are you absolutely sure about this, Mia?" Emma looked toward the giant bull watching her from across the arena. But now, the wildness in his gaze had softened. There was no rage, only a flicker of hope. "I'm sure, Papa," she said quietly. "Goliath and we understand each other now." The arena had been specially designed, a wide, circular space with layered fencing and emergency exits. Goliath was led in first, allowed to explore and settle. He tested the boundaries, paced the perimeter, and eventually settled near the center. 30 minutes later, the gate opened again, and Emma rolled in. The bull immediately turned toward her, ears alert but not aggressive. The silence was absolute. Every breath, every movement was held in delicate balance. Emma moved steadily, slowly, her expression calm. She stopped at the center of the arena, her wheelchair still. Goliath watched her but made no threatening moves. Instead, he took a step forward. And then another. "Incredible," Dr. Mitchell whispered into her recorder. "He's approaching with recognition. There's no sign of fear or hostility, only trust." Emma waited until Goliath was within 10 feet of her. Well, within charging distance. For a moment that stretched like eternity. The bull and the girl simply looked at each other. Then Emma spoke. "Hello, Goliath," she said softly. "I know. You've been hurt. I know you've been scared. But you don't have to be anymore." What happened next would be talked about for years. Instead of reacting with panic or force, Goliath lowered his massive head and walked 2 more steps forward until he was close enough for Emma to touch. Her voice, still steady, reached him again. "Easy, boy," she whispered. "I'm here to be your friend." She raised her hand. Goliath didn't flinch. He remained perfectly still as Emma's fingers touched the scarred surface of his muzzle. And then, slowly, deliberately, he lowered his body to the ground beside her. The bull lay down, a creature once labeled too dangerous to live, had just chosen to lie beside a child in a wheelchair. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Notebooks flew open. Cameras zoomed in. Some of the most seasoned animal experts in the country simply stood, speechless. Emma reached out with both hands, placing them on Goliath's broad head. "You're a good boy," she whispered. "You always were." People just stopped looking, closely enough to see it. For 20 minutes, they sat like that. Emma spoke to him not about dominance or control, but about pain, loneliness, and being misunderstood. She told him about her own journey, how being different wasn't always easy. But it was special, powerful. "We're both different," she said. "And different can be beautiful." When the time came for her to leave, Goliath rose slowly, carefully, and he followed her, step by step, all the way to the gate. Only when she crossed to the other side did he stop. resting his head gently on the fence as he watched her disappear from view. Marcus Brennan stood in stunned silence. That bull nearly killed a man 6 months ago, he said, voice choked. What your daughter just did, it's impossible, but I saw it. I saw it with my own eyes. True to his word, he handed David a check for $50,000, but he also offered something far more valuable. I want to donate Goliath to your ranch. He said, he belongs with Emma, and I want to fund a program here for other animals like him, ones who've been broken, ones who need someone like her. Dr. Mitchell later published her report in the Journal of Animal Behavior. It became the first documented case of a severely aggressive bull rehabilitated entirely through non-invasive, trust-based methods within months. The Rodriguez Ranch transformed into the Emma Rodriguez Center for Animal Rehabilitation. At just 13 years old, Emma began working with animals deemed beyond help: bulls, horses, dogs, creatures marked for death, and Goliath. He became the center's first success story. The gentle ambassador who followed Emma around like a loyal companion, obeying her voice, responding to every gesture with understanding and peace. People always asked Emma how she did it. Her answer never changed. I don't try to fix them, she'd say. I just help them remember who they were before the fear, before the pain. Emma's story traveled across the world, inspiring people with disabilities, caregivers, animal lovers, and children who had felt alone or overlooked. She proved that the greatest strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it rolls into an arena on wheels. Years later, when she graduated from veterinary school at the top of her class and opened a clinic specializing in behavioral rehabilitation, she placed a photo on her desk, a 12-year-old girl in a wheelchair, a massive bull lying at her side, two souls once misunderstood, now perfectly understood. The caption read, "Sometimes the greatest strength comes from the gentlest touch, and the most powerful connections are made by those who understand what it means to be different." Have you ever been underestimated? Have your challenges made others doubt your potential? How did you rise above it? Share your story in the comments and let's celebrate the power of believing in yourself.